Hello everyone and welcome back to my little exploration of World of Flowers. We are going to continue on with these little tiny flowers here, and it seems like you guys are enjoying it and I'm enjoying it too. It's a good way to ease back into colouring while I'm also working on a slightly bigger project as well for you guys. So today I'm using my Derwent Lightfast, but you can use Polychromos as well, they're very similar. So we're going to be doing this little flower today next to the fuchsia. So I'm starting out with doing sort of a lot of violety purpley pinky tones in the center, and we're going to have these little flowers sort of fold in on itself a little bit, so you'll see those little edges there. I want them sort of a whole lot darker, so we'll see how we end up with this. So I'm starting out with the heather color. So if you don't have the Derwent Lightfast and you want to use your Polychromos for this one, I don't really think we have a completely similar one to that. You can go in potentially super light with your violet, or you could do a little bit of a mix of a light layer of sky blue with a light layer of the light magenta over the top as well. You'd probably get a relatively similar result, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Similar is good enough. Now you will see here on my flower that unfortunately my paper has got a bit of a dent in it. I have a feeling that it was like that. You can see this one in between the two flowers as well, and just where I'm colouring right now there is a little bit of a dent in the paper, and there's nothing I can do about that unfortunately, but you will see it, so there will be a little bit of a line there when we finish. Hopefully your book is better than this one and you'll have a nice page without any dents in it. So I'm changing now to the deep rose. If you're using Polychromos, I'd probably go with like the magenta or something like that, something similar, and that should work out. So just sort of have a look and see something that's maybe like a red purpley kind of color as well. That would also work. So I'm just going to go in sort of where that fold sort of is, and just sort of start adding a little bit of shadows there, and then just sort of in the center here as well. I want it a little bit darker, and we're going to create hopefully a lot of movement in this flower. I really want to work on the shadows with this, and I think it's going to look really nice. I'm bringing out my Salmon. I'll probably use the beige red in the Polychromos instead, if that's what you're using. Now, colouring with this one, I'm kind of finding that it is really, really light. I don't really feel like it's bringing out a whole lot of pigment, but I'll just keep going. I'll do the whole thing and I'll see how it goes. But yes, using Polychromos, just use the beige red, I think would work well for this one. I'm going to go in now with the violet. Now this violet is a lot darker than the one in the Polychromos set, so if you're using that one, I'd probably go in one of the darker ones that has maybe like a little bit more blue in them. So you could go maybe the blue violet, or even the Delft blue I think would probably even work on here. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit on a little pinky purpley area, and then I'm going to use this as my base for the curved part of the leaf, where the leaf is kind of curling in on itself, and we'll see that. You can see here now. So this is going to be, I'm going to start sort of where I want my darker areas to be today, and then I'm leaving a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just sort of, you can see there, I'm leaving a little bit of a white area there in the middle. So I'm going to use the wild lavender just to start sort of blending in towards the center, still leaving that little bit of highlight in the middle there, just so we get a bit more sort of movement and everything, a bit of a difference between our lights and our darks. And I'll go even darker on these, that little outer fold there as well. By the time I'm done, I think we're gonna bring in even more sort of dark colors, and we'll see how we go. I'm thinking maybe like some blue tones and stuff as well, just to see how it goes. I'm still not, as familiar with the Derwent Lightfast pencils as I am with my Polychromos. I probably should have brought out my little color swatch that I did when I first got them, just to have that on hand to look at, but I didn't, so I kind of just guessed a little bit on this one. So I'm bringing in a little bit of this cherry red just to kind of redden up this inner area compared to that outer fold, because I want that sort of difference between the bluer tones and the redder kind of area. That way we have a little bit of a difference. I actually just realizing that this is probably very similar in color to the fuchsia that we have on the side there. I didn't even think of that when I picked the colors for this. I just went with whatever I felt like really at the time and didn't even look at the flower on the side. But yes, I'm just realizing that now, that it's looking very similar. So I think off the top of my head that I did that fuchsia with Polychromos, so you could potentially even go in to that old video. It would be in the World of Flowers playlist that's on my channel, and you should hopefully find a list of all the pencils that I used in that one, and you could always grab those out and have them on hand if you're using Polychromos instead of the Derwent Lightfast for this one. That way you have similar colors out, and you sort of see what I mean when I sort of recommend the different colors. Alright, I'm going to try to use this dark indigo here and just see how it all goes. This one I feel is like slightly brighter blue compared to the Polychromos counterpart. I feel like the Polychromos one is sort of darker, and I don't know, it's less of that blue sort of brightness to it. I think this one is definitely got more of that, really sort of, you can definitely see that this is a blue. So I'll lay them down, and I might end up going over with a bit of black afterwards. We'll see how we go, just to tone down that very blue section. So at the moment I'm just kind of going in between the outer and the inner part of the petals and just sort of evening out everything. And obviously as I'm working on the outer sides and things are getting darker, I might want to go in and adjust in other places as well. So that's what I'm doing now, just sort of jumping a little bit back and forth and just sort of making things make sense, really. I want to make sure that it all fits together and it's like a cohesive picture and that it's all making sense. Now, it's not very often that I do use a whole lot of black, and especially not overly early, but I feel like this picture does need a bit of black in here just to get that movement, to get those shadows in and give it that depth that it's needing to really look nice. I'm hoping that this would really start transforming these petals a little bit, just that little bit of black in there, and I think it's going to make more sense as I move along now. Yeah, I can see it already. I'm sort of feeling that it's making more and more sense, just adding in these little bit of, so these sort of black lines, just these little shadow areas here. Yeah, just look at that petal there now. We're getting that curvage underneath and we're adding in those little shadow areas there. I think that works much nicer. I'm just going to add in a little bit of this Dusky Pink and just sort of blend it in a little bit, just because I feel like that salmon just really didn't do much. So I'm just adding this in. You might be able to use like a little bit of cinnamon for this if you're using Polychromos. Or actually, no, don't. Never mind that one. Maybe use a coral, like a light layer of coral. That would probably work quite nicely. Although the salmon with Polychromos is better, but it is quite bright. So if you want it a little bit more subtle, then I think the coral would probably work out well. And I just discovered a couple of spots there that I've forgotten to do with black. So I'm just adding a little bit more of that in here just to get those shadows right the way they need to be. There we go. I think we got it now. I think I want to start with those little inner, the little pollen area, the centers there, and those little bits are sort of poking out. Now, if I was using my Derwent Lightfast, I'd use this golden amber, but my golden amber, unfortunately, is broken, and it has been like that since I first received it, and I think it's probably broken all the way through. So I'm just going to put that aside, and you can use it if yours is all fine, but I'm just going to go and pick up my Polychromos, and I've gone and grabbed the Dark Cadmium Yellow, that one, or like one of the sort of yellowy orangey ones would work as well. I think this is one of the dark chrome yellow or something like that, I think as well would work well for this. So I'm just layering down a nice light layer on all of these little sticky outy bits, technical talk, and I'm going to do exactly the same in the center as well. So just sort of bringing it in there, and I'm thinking I'm going to use the flame as well, and maybe like some burnt sienna. Just like I kind of tend to stick with those kind of tones with my centers of the flowers. I like that sort of the golden, almost orangey yellows with especially the burnt sienna. I think that works together. Those work together like really, really well, and it gives that really gold sort of look to it. So I have a tendency to go for those. And I feel like I'm kind of playing it safe with this center today, and I'm gonna do what I'm comfortable with, I think, today. But I think it's gonna look really nice, and they're kind of nice complementary to especially the little sort of violets on the side as well. Alright, it is burnt sienna time. I do feel when I've used this that it's a tiny little bit lighter than the Polychromos equivalent, so I may have to add something slightly darker in there, but it's looking really nice. It's starting, you can see what I mean with these sort of gold tones now that we have. We're leaving that highlight where we have the sort of dark yellow, orangey kind of color, and then now we're adding in these sort of burnt sienna shadows, and it's just goldening up the whole thing. It almost gets that little sort of metallic look to it, and we have that highlight as well. So I'm really going where I want my shadows to be, adding that in, any overlaps, any area where I think is going down, like into the center. These things look like they're coming from below that center point. So that's why I'm having a little bit of extra sort of dark areas, a little bit of extra shadows sort of where they're just coming out as well. And it just gives that little bit more depth. I'm going to go in now with the Sepia, and it's got the red in the side, so it does have a little bit of that red undertone to it. So it is a good one to use to start up your shadows. If you don't want to go directly to black, this is a good under layer to put down first. You can sort of start building it up, and then you can use black where you want it really, really dark, and you might not even need it in some spots. It is dark shadow time, so I'm bringing out the black. I did forget to mention that with the 72 set of the Derwent Lightfast, and I do think they now have a 100 set. They didn't used to, but I bought my set. 72 was the largest one, but I have a feeling that they've added more colors, if I remember right. So with the 72 set, there are actually 3 different shades of black. There is a black, which is this one, which can be used for everything, and then you have like a red black, and you have a blue black. Because when you're looking at black, most of the times it has that undertone of either red or blue, and you can really see it if you happen to wear something and you have one of each. It is really visible. So that was why I thought I'd just use the black one for now, and that way you can just pick whatever sort of black you have if you don't have the ones that has the different undertones. I just wanted to make it a bit easier today. And as well, if you have a smaller set of this, you might not have all three, so it just depends on what you have. So I've decided to use my Posca pens today rather than my Sakura Jelly Rolls. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow today just on the highlight side of these little, I don't know what they are. It's like little pollen things, aren't they? So I'm just adding it on to the highlighted side over the black line. And you can look at them now, you can really see the difference between that highlight and the shadow side. I think I'm really liking it. You can also, if you're only using white, if you don't have the yellow, just use your white, and you can, once it's completely dry, go over it lightly with that golden amber or the dark cadmium yellow as well. Just sort of gently go over it and you'll get that little bit of yellow. Now I'm just swapping over to my white Posca pen. This is the 1MR. You can use a 1M, which is what the last one I used is a 1M. It doesn't really matter, this just happened to be what I had. But those two are the finest nibbed Poscas, and they do make a really nice fine line here. So I'm just adding that to sort of the lighter areas here just to soften up the edges and just remove those sort of harsh lines. Again, here you can go over it with that wasn't the violet, what was the first one we used here? I can't even remember. The lighter tone that we used, probably the heather, maybe we can use that one. Or no, the wild lavender, that's the one we used. So you can use that over the top of this once it has had a little bit of time to dry. So it is a time for the greenery. So I'm starting out with this forest color. For once today, like, I don't usually go in with my darkest colors first, but I have done so a few times today, just to kind of test it out, just trying some new things. It's always good to do that, but I just decided to go in with some of the darker areas first, map out my shadows, and then I'll go in with some lighter greens afterwards. If you're using Polychromos, again here you could use my standard combination, which is the chrome oxide green for the darker part, and then you could use the permanent green olive, or if you want to go really light, you could use the earth green yellowish for the lighter parts. Now I am also adding in, I think, a little bit of black here as well, just because I already have used it in the flower, so we can afford to go in a bit darker on the shades and everything here on these little leaves poking out as well. So I've got all the green down. I just want to go in now and just touch up the shadows, add in a little bit of blacks here and there wherever it's curving sort of away from the light source, and just doing a little bit like I did on the petals as well. I'm sort of picking one side of the leaves and on the stem and making that darker, and then we can go in with a white pen afterwards and just sort of lighten up the highlighted side, and that will give that shape to these little leaves as well. Now I did end up going in and putting that lighter green over the top of this. Once it was all dry, I just forgot to put the camera back on. Just go over just the same and just add in a little bit of green, and you can do the same as I mentioned on the petals as well. Just pick that wild lavender to go over the color there as well, and it should be all good. So I'm just adding a few little highlighted dots in here and there just for a little bit of play on the colours, a bit of highlights, and we are done. So I hope you have enjoyed watching. Here is the finished product. Yes, you can still see a little bit of that line, but I think we managed to cover it up pretty well. And there is the page. This is how far we are. We still have plenty to go, but I do know that Johanna's other book is coming out very, very soon, so I have a feeling we'll be working in that a fair bit, and hopefully I can come back to this every now and again as well. So thank you so much for watching with me today. I wish you all a colourful day, and I will see you again next time.